Okay. All right, good evening, everybody. It is great to see so many people out here at the Flag Art Foundation for our beautiful A Rose Is show. Lots of roses around, if you haven't noticed. My name is Glenn Fuhrman. I'm the founder of the Flag Art Foundation, now in its 17th year. It's amazing how long we've been going and still having a great time. I am thrilled to be here with Nir Had, an artist who I hold with great admiration. Nir and I have been friends for a very long time, since I first saw and collected his work many years ago. And there is a new catalog out that I'm sure you've all seen. It is spectacularly beautiful. Actually, we should have a prop, but you all know it's out there. It's beautiful, beautiful catalog, with including not just great photos, but some great essays. So you'll see that more. And Nir, I think, is happy to sign them for anybody who'd like after the talk. But Nir, why don't we start just a little bit with your backstory, not going too far back, but why don't you start with what brought you to New York? Was it Cooper Union, and just, kind of the whole idea of coming to New York as it relates to your work?
Okay. First, thank you everybody for coming. I really appreciate this. And I want to be very honest, as a person, as an artist, So I was in Israel, and I was very different artist in Israel at that scene. I mean, we're talking about completely, I will do it short also, completely different art world, no like Instagram, no social media, no art fairs, no nothing. And I started very young to go to an art school, and before I finished, I was the first artist to have a show at the Israeli Museum, because I was different and stuff. It was very provocative also to do all these kind of things. And it was really amazing to be an artist at that time in Israel. But I always felt, in a nice way, that it's a provincial place in many ways for an artist, because you hear about, all this Jeff Koons and all this like Warhol and stuff, and you want to be like that, So I started to say I'm going to Israel. At that time I used to live with my parents even, and I was a little bit like kind of old for this age to live with your parents. But at the same time, outside I have this image, that I'm going to New York, I'm an artist. And at some point everybody said, you're not going, and people that knows me, they say, if he's going for like 5 months, maybe 1 year the most. And I said, I want to go to New York. I had a show here with a gallery that it's not exist, and then a group show that traveled between 5 museums, and I had a painting of me as women's soldier at that time. I used to work a lot with myself and genders and stuff. And it was in the cover of the Village Voice and like bus station at that time, that it was really wild. I said, I'm going. And I said, I'm going more for, I went more for the image, because it's very cool to say you're going to New York and you live in New York as an artist. Then I used to go to travel back to Israel, and they said, oh my God, it's from Israel. What do you think about my work? Do you think this gallery will lie? And I don't know nothing about even like myself in New York at that time. And somehow I stayed, and a lot of really amazing artists came with me from Israel to New York, and most of them left. Some of them are so talented, much more than me, but it was too cold, it was too lonely, like on Saturday, you're by yourself at the studio, and like all your friends smoking a joint on the beach in Tel Aviv, and you said, what do I do exactly? And somehow I'm one of the first to stay, and I'm really happy about it. It was a big challenge.
Did you enjoy the Cooper Union experience?
Cooper Union, I enjoy New York more than Cooper Union. When I went at Cooper Union, I didn't know almost like a word in English, because I was a really bad boy in school, so they didn't teach me English. But it was the experience of New York was really fascinating, and galleries. And I remember that I was obsessed with the daguerreotype when I was like young, and I never saw the daguerreotype, but I found a book about the daguerreotype when I studied, and I like this combination between painting, early photography. And then the new museum was on West Broadway, and there was a show, Sleeping Beauty, about dead, most of it is dead children with makeup and flowers, and this daguerreotype. And it's so my art and my mind, and that's what I remember. This was the best Cooper Union for me to go to this show.
That was before or after you made some work like that? Was that what inspired some of those early paintings?
It was when I started, but I didn't have enough sources, so I worked from my imagination. But when I saw it, like, with these dark walls and the dramatic light, I always talk about it. But, Israel, they don't have, like, kind of museum of old masters. And people said to me, what are you talking about? This is a desert. You should paint, like, with brown and yellow. Don't be so colorful. You're narcissist. You're working with yourself. You deal with beauty and flowers. What's the connect? And then it gave me also kind of direction, and like when you see it first time in life, it's fascinating, and it just gave me, it was the best school for me. So I guess it's because of Cooper Union, but sometimes because of things in life, you get other things, but in such a much better way. So you can say it's Cooper Union, but it was a lot of things together.
I mean, some of those early paintings, what I remember about them were, they were technically amazing. You're an amazing painter, and you can make incredibly accurate and detailed images. There were a lot of really beautiful people. You couldn't tell if they were kind of alive and sleeping or if they were dead, and there was a lot going on in those works. So, and you were in a lot of them, right? So just tell us a little bit about that body of work.
So at some point I said, you know, it was new generation. I'm talking about Israel, and like that's how it started, and then in New York. That it was like, you know, my teacher was influenced by, not by computer, not by Photoshop, no, not by kind of camera, Polaroids. I mean, yes, but different Polaroids, different kind of attitude. And it really changed the way I look at images, and I want, you know, at some point I said I want to be a rock star. Everybody said it's much better, but it's too easy, I think, you know, to be because I said I want to compete with, when somebody with the right piano music, the right light says, I love you, everybody says, oh, I want to kill myself, it's so amazing. But as an artist, it's very hard to express yourself. And I said, I want to compete this kind of impact, emotional impact, and the whole concept of music, it's so powerful. And it created for me some kind of direction. And I like when something beautiful turns into something ugly, or when ugly turns into beautiful. Then you start to understand things in a different way. You almost look at things for the first time. So I combine, and you know, when you grow up in Israel, there's nothing. You grow up under the umbrella of the Holocaust, of all this war, and there is death, but you know, it's a real death. And I always talk about fantasy. Even when I look for many years about the Holocaust, and I'm obsessed with the Holocaust, because since I'm 11 years old, somehow I know it sounds terrible, that I was an orphan during World War II, and then I'm coming back, and I want to impress people and to do beautiful things so somebody will take you home. It's a manipulation in many ways. And what is beautiful, for some people they said it's like too much, but what is too much also? So you just started, and as an artist you have the privilege, that's what I understand now, how amazing, to play with yourself, other people, emotion, mind, you know, because in the right context people believe to so many things, and it's so powerful, the impact of art on people. So I just created this kind of like aesthetic, and it appears in different body of works, but for example, it's like the geniuses.
Well, don't jump ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, but I think that this push and pull, and two things at the same time, happiness and sad, life and death, that's definitely a thread that is pulled through all of your work.
Totally. Even, you know, when we first met and we went to Art Crush in Aspen, I remember that Amy said, I like it, it's because it's beauty and destruction. I said, you know, it's such a great combination, I'm going to start to use it, because before that I said beauty and death or something. But yeah, because first I believe that life is full of contrast. And as if you're sensitive and thinker, you see this conflict between life and death, between what you want and what you have, between like, it's never-ending story. I think this is the tragic of being a human in many ways, but in a very beautiful way. So I found that art, it's one of the only place that you can combine contrast, and they live in very peaceful, romantic way. Because when you said about, you know, I'm dealing with beauty and death, people said, how can you deal with it, or with sadness and tragic? But then you just tell them, you know, the most beautiful songs, you know, are very sad. The Titanic, you know, it's beautiful, it's spectacular, but at the end, it's about death and beauty. So then said, you know something, I understand. So you understand as an artist that there is such a beautiful connection between beauty and death, or something like very moving. And also, when the iPhone started, and I got an iPhone, and my studio was in the meatpacking, so all the time people used to go to Pastis. They said, come for a drink, come for a coffee. And I said, I'm walking, or I'm painting. And then you write pain, and then it continued to painting, and you understand that pain is part of the word painting. And I think that the most beautiful art, movies, songs, and paintings, they have something very sad, but in a very beautiful way.
The pain in painting.
Yeah.
All right, so talk a little bit. So the next body of work, which was really very successful for you, with these genius works, which were these like little boys, 7 years old, 5 years old, smoking cigarettes, and they're all called Boy Genius. So where did that come from? Were they all self-portraits? Some of them were self-portraits. How are you thinking about them?
Yeah, they have a lot of self-portraits because, I understand at early age, I mean, all of us, as a child, that you start to be manipulative at some point. And, and I wanted so much more than everybody can give me, and they gave me a lot. So you start to be kind of manipulation, and you understand that if you do some kind of expression with your face between like some kind of like sad, lonely, and that you're not satisfied, and people just, they give you attention, and also you get presents at some point. So, and then I was fascinating with a lot of people that I really admire with the way they used to look, the hands, piano player, Einstein, like Sigmund Freud, all these kind of like personalities that I really appreciate. And at that time, there was no selfie and no people, standing on tables. It was like to be serious and to take yourself in a very serious way because there was no like enough images and photography. So I started to collect like these kind of strange things. And as a joke, all the time I said, somebody with like some fucked up haircut, I said it's a genius haircut. You see people smoking on the plane, like or on the TV at the 80s, you said it's genius how people used to be. And it's an expression, but at the same time, when you really think about it inside, you said, it is real genius. I say it in a very cynical way, but with no filters in the right context. People said, yeah, it was really amazing. It was genius. Now it's forbidden. So it started to create like new kind of almost language and also attitude. And I started with it as, I need to tell a short story because it's also interesting how it works in the art world, because it's also when we met. So I used to show with Jack Scheinman. In 2006, I had a show, and it was the last show that I used to paint myself and some images of soldiers, dead soldiers, flowers, something. It was very kind of Christian to bring this kind of aesthetic into Judaism or Israeli art, because I thought that it looks a little bit like boring, pale, and it needs some kind of different charisma and energy. And I suppose, so I had a show with Jack Scheinman in 2006, and he said that the next show will be at 2008. At 2007, I went to Israel, and I had this idea because there was a lot of like places where you clear checks, like kind of gangsters, and they always have like small office, just like a photo of a rabbi, like calculation machine, and like some kind of like blessing, but it was very dark and like fake leather chair and like neon light. And I said, this is such a crazy aesthetic all the time with the rabbi, to show like the like good person, so you can do business with us, but they are criminals. So I like it. And then I said, as a joke, I had this idea and I started to talk with Jack Scheinman to do an all installation in the gallery of this office with a small window so you can see just the office inside. And it will be somebody with yarmulke, that they shot him on the table. And behind him, instead of a rabbi painting, it will be a painting of a child that, give you some kind of attitude and looking at you in like very dramatic way. Because when I grew up in Israel and in the Middle East, also in Spain and Italy, there was a portrait called the Crying Child, and there was 3 different portraits of children crying, and people, it was almost like very iconic, almost like to look at Jesus. So it gives them emotion and, some kind of aesthetic. So I did this child as a joke, like with this attitude, with the eyes and the hair. And then one day I put a cigarette. I don't know why. I put a cigarette. And then he said, yo, he looks like a genius, this guy, this child. And he was like 5 years old. And then I called Jack. I will make it short. And Jack said, listen, you are from Israel. 2008 is the recession. I don't know if the gallery will survive. I don't know who's going to buy it. I don't like it. You are such a great painter. You should continue to do something with your... But at that time, because of this child was so fascinating, I had around 9 paintings of the genius. And then there was Art Crush, and I came to Aspen, and I donate one of them, and everybody said, who's this artist? We really like it, and we never heard about you. And in 1 week, I sold all of them, and then I told Jack. So he said, I don't want to show it. I don't know why people like it. And then I said, something, it's okay. And I became obsessed for 2 years. I did 102 portraits of these children. And then it became like so big. Everyone bought.
They all sold, right? I mean, they were so...
Yeah.
They're so immediately engaging. I mean, you look at them in the book. I mean, it's this little kid smoking a cigarette, and he's got... It's what you said. It's the facial expression, the attitude He's
Yeah,
like,
it's like
looking
small-
at you like, yeah, what's wrong with you? I'm smoking a cigarette. Go fuck yourself.
It's not just smoking. It's also, and then I said, there is so many things that they fucked up, but you said, it's so amazing and it's so nice, and we lost it, and in many ways because there was something that people were not aware to themselves. Now I start to see. I don't know if some people know, but Kozak, this iconic show from the 70s, yeah, and that's how. I'm sorry, my accent is like terrible, but and then at the 70s, you don't know if like it's policemen or it's like you see some Studio 54, all of them with afro and like these shoes and this, and everybody smoke and it was brilliant at the same time. But you understand that we live in a different time. So I start to develop this, and I start to look a lot about different children.
Did Jack come around, by the way, after you sold 100 Genius paintings?
Yeah, actually, he bought one. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so, and one thing about the Genius paintings, which I thought also was interesting, because you did make at least a couple of sculptures.
Yeah.
Right? And the sculptures were actually, I thought, really successful. And also, some of the sculptures even had like some sort of like, it looked like the cigarette was actually a light. Like it had like this weird little technical thing on the end that looked like there was like a lit cigarette.
Yeah. So honestly, this light, I think it's so interesting, and I always was attractive to like subculture and like kind of like cheap effect. And if you know how to do it, at the end, I have nothing to say except that they're really cute. They have this element of human and emotion, So I remember that there was like really terrible wax museum, Madame Tussauds in Israel. It was so terrible that it was genius, like seriously. Like they did, if you see how they did Kennedy or Golda Meir and stuff, it's like, it's genius as an artwork. And I was fascinating. By the way, they did for me for the first show, a commission. They did a sculpture of me. My parents have it when I was 24. And so I remember that as a child, they had a scene of Golda Meir sitting in the White House with Kennedy, the red phone, and she's smoking. She used all the... And I said as a child, this effect of the cigarette, it's so amazing. And I checked, and it's only like glitters, red glitters, and red and orange glitter, and with the right light, it looks like it's burning.
That's
so
cool.
I did it with diamond dust because it's more quality.
And did you make a lot of the sculptures or not that many?
I did altogether 4 different sculptures, and it was edition.
Yeah. And was that the first sculpture that you made?
No, I did like, I told you when I was, my first show, I went to the Madame Tussauds in Israel. I said, I want a sculpture of myself. They said, we never done this.
Oh, the one of yourself, yeah.
Yeah. And then I said, okay, and at the end they did it.
Got it. All right, so then talk a little bit about the mother paintings, because that was another body of work that was really, deep and had a lot of that kind of push-pull.
Yeah, so Mother, it was a different body of work that, by the way, I showed it 8 months after the Genius. So Kasmin gave me in 1 year 2 shows. Mother, as I said, I was really obsessed with the Holocaust since early age, till now, but in a very different way. I mean, I look at it from like, as Jewish, even as I'm saying, I know it sounds terrible, but even as a Nazi soldier, as a doctor, as a mother that pregnant, like the most hardcore kind of personality that you can put in this kind of situation. And I built some kind of imaginary story. And I like history. History is something very important for me. That's why they titled it so much about memory and time in my works. And one day, it happened by mistake. I grew up, everybody in Israel grew up on this photo of the child from Warsaw Ghetto with the hands up. And so you said back to sculpture. When I was 26, somebody did for me a sculpture of this child, and I went to a tailor, they did a jacket, and I got a number of somebody that is stuffed animal. So he called me, he said, I found a Bambi that was born, a deer, and he died after 3 years, so he stuffed it and he did the sculpture. The Bambi is looking at this child. So I grew up with this photo, but I don't. Nobody really remembered the photo. They just remember the child with the hands up. And one day, when I walk on the Geniuses, I said I want to see different children in the history of movies. Slumdog Millionaire. At that time, there was no Slumdog Millionaire. But I said I Google Cinema Paradiso, the Italian movie that for me it's a masterpiece. It's the Bible. Like again, it's like the world through like problematic child, but so cute that everybody forgive him. Like want to see like sex in or like like a child. And then I went to see, and I say, so I want to see Expressions and the child from Charlie Chaplin, and then I want to see, and I said, I want to see the expression of the child from Warsaw Ghetto. So I Googled Warsaw Ghetto, boy, and so it's with the hand. But when I opened my computer, my first page was CNN. At that time, there was a photo of Hillary Clinton from Life magazine giving a lecture, and there was also a screen behind there so people could see. And I guess she talked like this. And the first thing I said, wow, it's almost like somebody about to shoot Hillary Clinton. So the first thing when I saw the mother painting, the photo of the child from Warsaw Ghetto, I saw him. I'm sorry, I saw these women next to him. And I said, it will be so amazing to paint her in colors, because all of a sudden I understand that it looks almost like a fashion advertising of Hermes or something like that.
So the boy was always shown cropped. You only just saw the boy, and now you had seen the full photograph, which included the mother and the whole scene.
Yeah, everybody. You know, I think that, you know, it makes me understand. Everybody look with their eyes open, but not to the right places. Because one day, everybody said to me, and you know, to be honest, I lie to so many people in a nice way, of course, because I got tons of press and collectors, some of them, you know, like Jewish or not Jewish. So I said I will tell different stories, because art, it's about magic. It's not about the truth. So, and again, it's not stories that I said, I did it like that, so you should buy it because I don't have money. Just like to make it like really nice and beautiful. So different stories, but, you know, there is a lot of people said, how did you, even my mom, they said, how did you notice this girl? So I came with different stories, from Hillary Clinton to like hardcore like stuff. People said, oh my God, let me hug you. And, you know, but it's not, just to build it. But mother, so I had the mother show, and when we hang it, like, we brought like few different people and groups to sit. And I remember that everybody looked at the bag and they said, oh my God, no, I'm sorry, not oh my God. They said, the bag is Louis Vuitton, it's Prada. And I said, so few people, they said, it looks like she's coming out of Bergdorf looking for a taxi. I said, this is so weird. It's almost like at the 80s when you ask children what they want to be, they said, a carpenter. So many people said, Bergdorf Goodman looking for a taxi. And there's no connection. And then I said, and then they all the time argue about the bag, laugh. The bag is Louis Vuitton or Prada? I have this. And then after they see the all works and they saw the original image, they said, oh my God, I feel such a shame that I talk about it, about the bag, and if it's Louis Vuitton or Prada. I said, no, this is the beautiful of it. That's what I want, you know? They feel shame. And I said, when you don't have information, you're falling in love with so many things you're not supposed to, because it's pure beauty, or it's pure emotion, or you feel some attraction. And when somebody gives you the information and said, oh my God, I cannot believe that I like it. So it's about forbidden desire. And I think that's the beauty of art. When we talk about conflict or contrast, I think that it can create like a peaceful, romantic image, and also a state of mind or understanding the world in a different way.
Well, we're so bombarded by images every day, and all the images can be viewed differently in different contexts and how they're presented. And I think you've really proved that in a lot of the different works that you've put together, which is what makes them so compelling, I think. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, the next really big body of work, you know, this chroming technique. Where did you discover it? You know, how did you get to it? It seems pretty labor intensive. Like just give us a little bit of where that all came from and then how you perfected it.
Okay. So again, galleries or people that I used to work with them when I started the company, they say, don't talk about it. It's like they are so beautiful. Leave it like the story is like beautiful surfaces, narcissism. But honestly, when I worked on Mother, I started to, because Paul Kasmini all the time when he was alive and he was such an amazing person, he said to me, try to find the next Mother, like look at history, look at images. And I started to, not because he told me, but just because I was obsessed with this. And one day I look about like different walls. I found like walls with scratches, dirty walls, and some of them was from Auschwitz to Hiroshima to like different places. And I said, this is so sexy, like something seriously. And I start to print some of them, and I edit at my studio, and people said, where do you go? This is like from Stella McCartney fashion show, or some place said, this is, I've been in this place in Berlin, but it was a club, and I don't really go to clubs, and, but I understand that there is parallel world with the same aesthetic, and then Soho House opened in the meatpacking, they had the same kind of vintage look. So one day when we did the Geniuses, we did also edition, because I said I want to be an artist. I have this kind of model, not just to compete with like music, also with the fashion industry. Every time you go to a fashion show, you get like a bag, and it's so nice. You go to a show, you cannot get too many things. So we did the coasters with the lines of cocaine, that it was really successful. And then Paul said, instead of bronze, let's do an edition of sculpture, but we'll find some material, but it's not bronze. So I discovered like a place by mistake in the Bronx of like where they do chrome. So I went with somebody from the gallery, the most crazy garage, crazy people I've never been. It's almost to be in jail. Like it's car industry. It's not almost. It's like it's worse. The way they talk and stuff. But it was amazing. I said, I want to work with these people. It's almost for me to go into like I cannot even. It's art by itself just to be part of it. And we developed something. And then one day when he did the sculpture, I said, I want the canvases to be like that, because my idea was, I did 102 paintings of the Geniuses. Then it was altogether 14 mother. I was so tired to paint, and it's a nightmare to do again the hand, the hair. It's in many ways it's boring, but it's challenging. So I said I want something a bit more kind of abstract, and it's important for me that it will be with people because I like people and my art.
So you were talking to the people that did the chroming for you, or that were doing this edition?
No, I said, can you do something on a canvas? I want the canvas to look like that. And he did, and I said, this is amazing. I fall in love. It was.
So he did it for you there?
Yeah. And then we developed this technique. I brought him to my studio 3 months after the guy died.
Oh, no.
And I took all the 3 workers, because there's only 8 people that can do this process, and they're working for me. I have another ground floor studio to make the chrome. But it was so fascinating, this process, that it completely changed me. It's almost sometimes you read a book, or you see a movie, or you met the right person that changed your life.
Were the dealers nervous at all? It's just such a dramatic shift in your work from these kind of hand-painted, very detailed, masterful paintings, and then this is a real leap.
You're so right, and I want to talk about it because the way I see it, and I always talk about it from early age as an instinct, even when I was not aware to myself. I said to myself, I want to be an artist of different body of works. I want to be like Spielberg, because I admire him, like to do E.T., Schindler's List, or Josh. I'm not doing Harry Potter from 1 to 40 or like Rambo 1 to 7. It's like I'm also writers. I can write about porn, Holocaust, love, flowers. As a person, I think that we live in such an amazing world with so many things that influence me emotionally, techniques. I go to see old masters like a child. I said, that's what I want. Then you go to see an amazing kind of like Rothko, the opposite, and he said, this is so amazing. So I cannot say that I want to get the influence, and I think it's about diversity. I started
but there's one thing for you to have that view. Were we getting support from your advisors and dealers on this move?
Yeah. So I will tell you. So at some point, I think that there is an evolution from each work. It leads to another one. But I said, I don't want to feed anyone. There's a lot of collectors or galleries that they said, I want to get this because this is what people know. This is what I can sell. Mm-hmm. A lot of my friends, amazing artists, so successful, they said, I don't have ego. That's what the gallery want. This is what I don't want to think anymore. That's what I do. How can you say you don't want to think, not even as a person, not as an artist? Artists need to think. I want to be like an orchestra. I can play guitar, I can play drum.
Well, I completely agree with you, and I think that is what makes you an interesting artist, that you're not just doing another love sculpture in a different color, right? I can just keep doing new bodies of work.
Yeah.
And I know you love Richter, and you look at Richter, who went from the color charts and to the candles to the paintings made on the computer to photography. I mean, he
Of
was
course.
constantly challenging himself, and that's
And-
how you move forward as an artist.
Yeah, and I said I want to challenge people. You know, there's so many techniques, so many elements, so many subjects. How can you not touch it? And so I said to people, you know, yeah, I have different body of work. You know, thank God my work, it's kind of like they communicate well with people, so people like it. So even with the shift, so they start to look for a new body of works. And I think that there is, you know, a lot of evolution. It's always like there is some kind of elements of flower or like person. And it's a shift, but you know, people accept it because I want to be, when you talk with even artists or big collectors one-on-one, they said, yeah, you know, I bought it, but I know this artist is stuck. There's so many artists that you saw 1 to 10 paintings, and that's it, you know. So, and I'm looking at, till now, I'm looking at Leonardo da Vinci, Picasso, when he did stuff from 12 years old, till at the end, it's unbelievable, it's amazing. I saw like this documentary about Kiefer last year, and it's beyond amazing, and you said, I want to be in this level. And then you see, I just saw a documentary about Karl Lagerfeld, and I said, so many things, like art should be open. And I think it's, I don't know, I never like really try to limit myself and to say, to ask myself, the gallery will like it, collector. I think it's so important to be honest to yourself. And I have so many things that drive me crazy that I want to kind of translate them to my art.
When you know, you've mentioned Richter before, and Monet and Fontana as artists that you have respected and been inspired by. Did you see those works, them influencing this work right off the bat? Clearly, you went in a real Monet direction once you started painting the flowers on top. But you know, how are these artists? How are you thinking about these artists as inspiration when you were doing this work?
So you know something. Like, I think that the most beautiful is that you became a victim of yourself and of your art, and then you go almost to something religious. You start to serve something. And that's why I said, like, artists, it's like soldiers of God. You know, you serve something like really deep and heavy. And honestly, some artists, I like them because it was very nice to say at your studio or in an interview that you like this and this and that, but I was not so crazy. It's almost like people, they said, what did you eat? They said, yeah, I ate like healthy, but then, you know, they smoke joint and they have pizza when they say that. But so it's just to build image to other people, even to yourself, you feel better, but you know that you're not doing it. So I said some artists, but over the years, a lot of body of works, and like create new love for some artists. I never thought that I will go specific to Holland to see Van Gogh, for example, or to go to the Metropolitan Museum. At some point, in purpose, I said Metropolitan, it's for old people, you know, it's so boring. But now I think it's like genius, you know, it's to be in heaven. So it changed. But you know something, Gerhard Richter, it's the one that I used to do only videos when I was a student at the beginning. I saw the candle paintings of Gerhard Richter, and it was so amazing and so fascinating. And at that time in Israel, there was no computer, no internet. I was sure that it's a blurry photo of candles. But it was something so simple, but everything was there. And the only thing I did in 1 year, I did 8 paintings till I started to paint like Richter. I didn't know how to paint exactly. I knew, but not like... So the only year, and everybody laughed. They said, this is what you do, and I used to laugh about people who's doing these kind of things. I said, you're masturbating in front of, like, sorry, but this is how we called it. So I painted it till, 8 paintings. Till the last one I did, it was much better than Richter. No, I'm kidding. But, no, but it was, and then it created for me some kind of understanding images and painting because of Richter, the relation between photography and painting. I mean, I like photography, but when you see a good painting, there's nothing to compare. That's why, so.
For sure. And can you talk a little bit about what you're working on now?
Yeah, so now the last body of works, it's called 100 Years is Not Enough, which is an evolution of the chrome paintings. And the chrome paintings, I started them as it was abstract, but at the same time, they turn into figurative painting while you're standing in front of it, so there is a relation. And during the pandemic, and it's called The Life We Left Behind, because I thought about so many walls, dirty walls, like wall of death. Even in 9/11, there was all this kind of construction. Yeah. It was the last time that people really see themselves. But at the same time, there is something very vitally and like pastoralic. When you see the background, it's always about landscape, and the chrome for me represent life, money, desire, dreams, frustration, all these things that we are part of it. And so I call it The Life We Left Behind. And then the pandemic started, and I really understand this title and these paintings. So we moved to Connecticut, and I said nothing will happen, we still have time. And then we found like one of the most expensive houses on a boat, on a lake with a boat, because nothing was available. I said to my, it's crazy, but it was so nice. What really nice about it, that I live on a lake, and I saw the reflection every morning. And again, I complain, I don't want to see nature, I want to be at my studio, I want to make money, I want to paint, I want to go to, the last thing I want to be in nature. And I was really happy there, but I couldn't admit. It's the first time that I really appreciate nature. I never lived in nature. So I saw the lake and the reflection. I said, it's so what I'm talking about. Nobody's outside, the life we left behind, and everything is so peaceful, and the reflection every day, and how it changed with the colors. And then the time changed, and then start like leaves and different greens start to float on the water. And it was like some kind of like puzzle, and I said, it looks like Monet in many ways. And this is one of the really artworks that I admire since I was like 17 years old. I went to see it, and it's stuck in my mind. And not too many things stuck in my mind. I have like Leonardo da Vinci, like, Cinema Paradiso. I have like things. Part of it is the water lily, because I think it's so amazing, like even like to see the gardens and everything. It was so pioneer and so like colorful and abstract, and so many things that people like that I don't understand how he did it even, and something about old masters. So I came to my studio, and it got stuck after 4 months. I was by myself. It was the best time in New York at that time. It was so amazing. And one day I paint on to do the underpainting before the chrome. And I came to my studio the day after. I see a splash of some green on the chrome, and I said, sure, I destroyed the painting. I cannot believe it. But then I look, and I said, it looks like something like a flower, something green floating on the water. And I started, very accidental. And then slowly, I did this kind of, we call it it's not water lily, but it's like flowers, it's imaginary landscapes. I start with just like out of nowhere. My phone, it's so full of images from flowers, from like, I go like from Chinese restaurant that they have these flowers, to Instagram, to National Geographic, and slowly I built some kind of imaginary landscape that they base on so many artworks that I admire, that they deal with light, reflection, old master effect, and landscape and water lily.
It's fabulous. Well, it's an incredible new body of work.
Thank you.
Just in conclusion, and then we'll maybe take a few questions. Talk a little bit about the book. Was it a fun process? Was it, kind of fun to look back on some of the early images? It takes a while. It takes a lot of work to put a great book together, and this is a great book.
Yeah, so first, thank you for Michael Cohn is here for the gallery. And we said, let's do a book. And about the works, people really like it, and it's the first time that I'm really concentrating, but slowly I want to move on. I'm going to do something. She's also here with Sarah Gablak at the Armour with the shades painting, that it's monochromatic painting that I started to develop because of the chrome. But it's very hard to make a book, because every artist thinks that he's a genius and he's got like 100 paintings that must be in the book, and then the gallery said, Leon, let's only 30, people are tired. And then they said, something? I think it should be even 150 to make it like crazy, So it's always, and you always finish a painting and you think that it's the best painting you ever did. So you said, this must be in the book. I cannot believe it's going for printing. I talked with Michael today. I said, every artist think that the last painting is the best painting they ever did. So shortly, it's just a nice kind of metaphor. So I saw something about Degas that I love so much, like 12 years ago. On the TV, like 4 episodes, and it's with actress. So he was 40 years old, never sold a painting in his life, and his father was a successful businessman, and he said to him, you're such a loser, you don't do nothing with your life, why don't you go to work? So Degas said to him, actually now I'm working on my best painting. So his father like pushed on the table and the wine's flying, and he said, every time that's what you said. And he said, and every time I'm right. You know, so as an artist, you always think that now, you know, maybe you should wait with the book because I'm telling you now I'm in such a great way and position and understanding the next 2 paintings will be amazing. But at some point, you're just doing it. And it's very interesting to how the paintings translate them into a photo because you have some kind of frustration because even people that know so much about art, they said, when you're standing in front of the painting, I didn't understand this impact that
well,
it
also
had.
a lot of the work is about scale and the reflection. I mean, it's very hard to capture in a photograph for sure.
Yeah, and then you start to work on it, and slowly, I know, you know something, at the end, I think that art, it's magic at the end. You know, there's so many explanations, so many theories. Sometimes you go to a show and, you know, the new space X, like, goes to the moon, doesn't have so much text about, like, 2 small paintings, you know? And at the end, I believe that art, it's about magic. It's about a place when there's not too much things to say. And when you start to understand it, I mean, of course, there's so much, but I'm talking about the bottom line.
Yeah.
The bottom line, if somebody said about something, it's amazing, I think it's the most intellectual thing to say. And deep even. So at some point, you just choose an instinct. Otherwise, it will be a never-ending story. And I think that also, I talk with a lot of artists, friends of mine, I said, you know, it's like too much bullshit. Life is very short and very simple, and just you know, not too much. So it was very instinct, but very.
It is a great book, and it is great to have a document like that for you and for your career. And you're still so young; you'll have multiple books ahead of you. But it's great to have a beautiful book like that, just as a document, if nothing else. But why don't we take a few questions? If anybody in the audience wants to ask a question or two before we wrap up. Anybody out there have anything they want to ask?
That's great.
Okay, we don't have to push anybody, but Nir is going to be here signing books. The books are all around the corner. You definitely should take a look at it. Thank you all for coming. And
thank you,
Nir,
so
thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you. Thank you so much.